Oregon is back on a recruiting binge. We also have Texas and LSU, Notre Dame news, a lot to discuss here on the Portal Podcast.
Locked On presents The Portal, the daily podcast covering college football recruiting and everything NIL. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome back to the Portal Podcast, where you get your daily recruiting, NIL, and transfer portal scoop. I'm your host, Brian Smith, longtime college football writer and recruiting analyst. Thank you for making the Portal Podcast your first listen each and every day. Truly appreciate you stopping to get all your latest recruiting intel. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Today's show is going to be one where some of the elite recruits have finally made decisions. We got a few more to discuss that are pending. Going to give some thoughts on those and how they can shift the recruiting rankings. But Oregon, Texas, LSU, Notre Dame, Alabama, Florida, some of these major programs, there are several more as well. Let's get started with the Oregon Ducks. Dan Lanning and his crew, they've decided to go after the big fellas. They flipped Tommy Toffee from California, 6'6", 330 pounds. And he's the smaller of the two guys they just got. They also get Emmanuel Iheanacho. This is a young man from the East Coast. They get Tommy Toffee's from San Francisco. This kid's from the Baltimore area. Emmanuel Iheanacho is 6'6", 6'7", 350, maybe a little over. So between them, you're roughly 680 pounds of offensive linemen. That's impressive. They have a chance now as they slowly move back up the recruiting rankings to break into the top 10. And Iheanacho is a 5-star recruit, and Toffee's one of the better offensive linemen in the country as well. But they're also getting Devin Jackson. That's a kid that I didn't think they were going to land. Out of Orlando, Florida. He's a young man that is a versatile DB. Some thought Florida, he decommitted. Then he went, looks like he was going to go to Miami. But Oregon, they always get kids out of the Southeast that you just don't expect. Devin Jackson could play corner, he could play safety, very athletic, and he's a kid that's a very physical player too. I think Oregon fans are going to like him a lot. So hats off to the Oregon Ducks. They are on a recruiting roll, and they're probably not done here. I'll leave it at that. LSU, speaking of dipping into the state of Florida, the Tigers go to Pensacola, right off I-10, and they get one of the best high upside pass rushers in the country, Trenton Henderson, 6'4", 225, out of Catholic High School there in Pensacola. Could have went to Florida, Florida State, Georgia, wherever he wanted to go. He had offers pretty much everybody. Most people thought it was Florida, but a late run by the LSU Tigers gets it done. Trenton Henderson is a Tiger, and now they've kind of set their board. They have reestablished themselves on the defensive side of the ball. Last year's class with this one, LSU should, barring something unforeseen, start to climb the ranks, defensive statistics, sacks, rushing yardage allowed, things like that. They have signed too many good players over the last couple of classes. If in 2026 they're not a top 20 defense, there's something wrong. Trenton Henderson's just another example of that, and he'll probably have to wait his turn to play, but his length, his get off, his ability to change direction, that is a very, very talented athlete. So hats off to Brian Kelly and his staff. Texas, this is, are we surprised they're getting kids? But they're getting players very consistently in building their class. Are they going to finish in the top 5? Possibly. But their most recent commitment is just kind of a sign of the times for them. They're not a team that is going to take a back seat to anybody. But the most recent commit, Opala, one of the best linebackers in the country. He's from Made Creek. It's a program, if you're a Texas fan, you might have heard of before. It's in Houston. Kosi Opala is that traditional 6'2", 220-plus pound guy that is just put together. I'm curious to see how the Longhorns use him. Could he play on the edge? Possibly. Could he play inside linebacker? Possibly. But Texas is trying to use some two-gap, so maybe they play him at inside backer. I don't know. I just like his film. Really good athlete and another power player. Could have went to numerous schools, Big 12, SEC, ACC, whatever. Texas gets another one. So good job by the Horns. Now let's just kind of break down the list here and then get into a few predictions, Notre Dame and otherwise. Tristan Hill, safety out of Peachtree Ridge in the state of Georgia. He's going to NC State. That's a safety. Nice job by the Wolfpack. Linebacker Caleb Fowler, 6'1", 200 pounds, out of Geyer High School in Denton, Texas, just north of Dallas. Great program. He's going to Army. I want to give a little love to the Army cadets. That's a really good football program they're getting somebody from. I think he'll probably fit very well at West Point based on that program. Tommy Tofi, we just discussed. Noah Clark, 6'4", 330 pounds, out of Morgan High School in Durham, North Carolina. He picks South Carolina. They get a big nose guard. The way South Carolina played defense last year, you would expect them to sign some pretty good defensive linemen. They've earned that reputation. Cedarian Morgan, a player I'm going to do a feature on later today. He committed to Bama yesterday. He's from in-state. That's a kid that everybody in the country wanted. Colorado, Florida, you name it, they offered. But he ends up with Bama. Cedarian, 6'5", 215. That's a future NFL player. His hands are like an offensive lineman's, and he is a great kid. Again, I'm going to do a feature on Cedarian a little later today. We're also going to have Donovan Webb. This one surprised me a little bit, but it probably shouldn't have. Texas Tech gets it done. He's out of Frisco Panther Creek, just on the north edge of Dallas, one of the top safeties in the Lone Star State. He will be a Red Raider. Kendall Gravel, defensive tackle from Fort Myers High. He will be a Gator. Some thought it was going to be Texas. Florida makes the late run. They get it done. J.J. Bush, linebacker, 6'3", 210 pounds, out of Theodore, Alabama. He's going to take his talents to Arkansas. Again, that's a really nice pickup for them. Arkansas is having a really good class. For a team that's got a coach that's been on the hot seat, that's pretty impressive. We also have Darian Lewis, 5'11", 195 pounds, a safety out of Amarillo, Texas, from Paulo Duro High School, going to North Carolina. The Tar Heels aren't recruiting as well in-state as I thought, but they're getting a lot of kids all around the country. It's a different recruiting approach down in Chapel Hill, but it's getting to the point where you're like, you just got to give them credit. They're just getting good players. Now let's see if they can close on a few more guys in-state to finish this year and next. When we come back, I want to talk about some decisions that are coming up and the overall view of some of the players that are getting ready to make decisions. How much are they going to influence the top 10 of the recruiting rankings? I think it's going to be pretty big because some of the guys that are making decisions are deciding among some of those schools. That is next here on the Portal Podcast. Ever wish managing your money thought a little bit easier? With Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. If you want to look at it from a big box perspective, there are a lot of different ways to save money, but one of the best ways to do it is to see everything that you have quickly and efficiently. If you have the Monarch app, you can put everything in that app, one place, one-stop shopping to help you save time, be more efficient, and see where you're spending perhaps a little too much. We all do it in some way. That way you have a better chance to save. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com. Code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. Thank you once again for making the Portal Podcast your first listen each and every day. Truly appreciate you stopping in to get all your latest recruiting intel. Today's show, like all the others right now, is full of information about who's committed, but I also want to talk about what's coming up. Some of the kids that are quote unquote scheduled for decisions and how that impacts the top 10 of the recruiting rankings. Right now, depending on where you want to look, everybody's got their own system. The recruiting rankings are pretty wild because we got some teams finally, like Bama, I'll talk about them a little bit more today, that are making that run. Bama had 6 commitments coming into the middle of May, somewhere around there. But now that we're in early July, about 6 weeks later, they're pushing for a top 5 class. A bunch of their kids, just the way it worked, that they wanted, were making later decisions. Is what it is. But now they're down to nitty gritty and they're winning a lot of battles. Sedarian Morgan, probably the biggest one they've won here in a while, the 5-star receiver out of Benjamin Russell High School in the state of Alabama. But let's just use that as an example. He could have went to Florida. Florida's on the cusp of a top 10 class. You got to give Billy Napier and his staff a lot of credit. They've done a really good job, and they've got some other kids they're getting ready to probably get. They just got Kendall Gravel. They're getting a lot of good players too, despite Billy being on the hot seat. It's wild how one or two guys, though, can decide somebody being like 14th in the country in the rankings or like number 6. It's very close. With that being stated, here are a couple of the recruits that we have coming up for decisions, and then I'm going to give a few comments about what I think is going to end up being the top programs in the country at the end of the hall here. Let's talk about Luke Fahey. Ohio State looks like the team that he was a fan. He told me that a long time ago. Growing up, quarterback out of Mission Viejo. Ohio State doesn't have a quarterback yet. That will certainly boost their class, give them a chance to finish in the top 5. He's one of the most accurate kids, and he's also a kid that's very athletic. I really like Luke, great kid. Good luck to him at Ohio State if that's where it ends up being, but it sure seems like that's where he's going to go. Caden Finley, his dad, Jermichael Finley, ended up playing for the Horns, played for Green Bay, etc. But Notre Dame is trending for him. If he goes to Notre Dame, we still got to see it happen. Notre Dame's chances of not only finishing in the top 10, but possibly the top 5 are pretty good. That's one of the better receivers in the country, depending on the service you go with. But Notre Dame really wants Caden Finley. He's ranked number 216th nationally by 24/7. I think he's better than that personally, but receiver's hard to grade. That's a kid that they coveted, though. And they're trying to get a little run on receivers here. That's been one of those spots where not just Notre Dame, but other schools are trying to climb the ranks. They needed more receiver talent, more firepower. That's a big deal. Speaking of wide receivers, Ethan Booby Feaster out of DeSoto High School on the south edge of Dallas, just like with Finley, another Dallas kid. His decision is coming up tomorrow. Now, there's been all kinds of rumors. It was LSU, it was Texas, it was Texas A&M, etc. The most recent information is Southern Cal. Now, if he goes there, it's not like USC has struggled to get wide receivers anyway, but that would be another kid that they get to add to an already loaded room, and they would keep him away from Texas, a team that could finish in the top 5, but they don't get Feaster. That's going to hurt them. LSU, Texas A&M, etc. All those programs were involved heavily, so that could hurt their classes a little bit. Contrell Webb, this is a school or a kid that could go to a lot of different programs. Florida State has trended lately. Well, the Noles add another guy. That's a team that I didn't think it really had a great chance at a top 10 class, but Florida State's on the cusp. He's going to make his decision tomorrow as well, right around noon. 6'2", 230 pounds. Contrell Webb is a twitchy outside edge guy, probably somebody that's going to be a very good pass rusher at the college level. He's certainly shown that through the high school ranks. And those are just a few of the guys. There's several more guys coming up for decisions. Tank King, the linebacker out of Port Arthur in Texas. Think he's going to go to A&M. That's a guy that could help them solidify a top 10 class. Possibly. The Aggies could possibly end up in the top 5. They're certainly doing a great job. Felix Ojo, most expect Texas for him. He's a 5-star kid out of Mansfield, Texas at Lake Ridge High School. Ohio State, several other programs are after him as well. If he goes to Ohio State, kind of like with Fahey, there's a really, really good chance that Ohio State ends up with a top 5 class. Now, overall, I just want to make this statement. Right now, the top, let's say, 7 or 8 schools, it's pretty hard to go against any of those programs and saying they're going to trend out of the top 10. Like, it's pretty solidified. It's just who's going to be ranked where. Florida State is kind of the late charger. Bama obviously just got in the mix, but Georgia's still up there. Ohio State, Notre Dame, Southern Cal, LSU, they've got several kids left. They might have the biggest charge between now and signing day. But overall, it's the same schools you would kind of expect. Clemson's in there. But it's going to come down again to just 1 or 2 decisions on some of these elite players to decide who ends up in the top 5. I do want to add one more thing, though. It's not who you sign. It's the recruits that you keep and develop. So just ask yourself this in your own opinion, no matter which team you follow or which programs. How many kids are you getting because they want to go to your school? And how many kids are you getting because you're spending more NIL? The kid didn't necessarily want to go there, but the NIL was high enough. He's like, yeah, I'll take that. How much are you really going to get of that player? This is something I'll talk about later after signing day, after all the different signatures are done. But this is the new trend that I'm following. Which programs are getting kids that they didn't have to just blow out the bank to get? The programs that do that are probably going to be the ones that end up in the Final Four of the college football playoff. Kids that go to schools because they truly want to be there, those are the ones that are probably going to play the best. So keep that in mind. Thank you once again for making the Portal Podcast your first listen each and every day. Truly appreciate you stopping in to get all your latest recruiting intel. Please hit that like button, that subscribe. We will see you again soon on the Portal Podcast.